Hello, my name is Victoria Grindy, and I will be discussing strategic management today. More specifically, I'll be discussing what is a strategy, the features of a strategy, the different levels that exist within a strategy, and then lead into what strategic management is, the strategic management process, as well as why strategic management is important. So the definition that I chose to go with for strategy is, the strategy is a tactical course of action that is designed to help achieve long-term objectives. It's an art and essentially a science in planning and marshaling resources in order to be utilizing them more efficiently and more effectively to change the environment. Strategy in a business will consist of the management decisions regarding the future direction and scope of the business. This will include management's choices related to action programs, competitive maneuvers, and different business approaches designed to achieve goals and objectives. Once a strategy has been created, it will have both short and long-term implications. So it's ultimately going to be framed by management and ownership, but you have to understand that there is going to be impacts on the here and now and the where and when. So when you make a change anywhere, you have to understand that it's going to not just change what's going on in the future, but it will have changes right now, a week from now, a year from now, and then ultimately we get to the end of your goal. So what are the different features of a strategy? There's 6 different ones that I really feel are key, and that is that there's top management responsibility. The strategy is going to be thought about, talked about, and formulated by upper management. They are the ones that make the decisions of the direction of the company and how the company is going to be moving forward and how they're going to change. There's also a large allocation or small allocation of resources. So whether big or small, you're going to have to really hone in on what the strategy is going to need resource-wise, whether they need to take stuff away, change some things up, or add more resources to the strategy in order to make it a successful maneuver. It also, like I said, it will have impact on the long-term prosperity of the company. So when you make a change to a strategy or implement a new one, it's important to know that this is going to have an impact on whether or not your business is going to be successful financially in the future. So if you change something now that hasn't been working, maybe in the future it will help you become more prosperous. Or it could have the exact opposite effect. If you change something and it was working, you just need to maybe perfect it, but you change it and implement something new, it could have a negative impact on whether or not your company's ultimately successful. It's also very important to know that strategies are very future oriented. It's not something that deals with the past, because you can't change the past. You have to learn from it and then make a strategy that can help you go into a direction that you want to be in. Maybe something wasn't working in the past. Why wasn't it working? Analyze that, then implement a strategy that really hones in on those key takeaways from whatever wasn't working. Strategies will have multifunctional and multi-business consequences. Just because you make a change here in this funnel doesn't mean it's going to not impact other funnels. The funnels may not be interacting frequently with each other, but one change in this part of the organization will have some sort of ripple effect on the rest of the organization. And that might just be because similar strategies are going to be implemented, or resources are being taken away from other functions to help this function because of this strategy, and vice versa. It's also important to consider that there are external factors in the external environment that can be impacted by whatever strategy is implemented. So essentially, if you change something within your operations and how you're doing things, that strategy might ultimately have an impact on your operating environment outside of the organization. So that could change how people work with you, view you as a whole, and whether or not your company is going to remain or even get to being more effective and more prosperous. There's different levels of strategy, as I mentioned before, and that means that there's a corporate level strategy, a business level strategy, and an operation level strategy. The corporate level strategy is really the bird's eye view area of the different levels. The corporate level, you see everything. You are making the decisions, you're the one strategizing and making the changes that are needed to help guide the company in the direction they want to be in and to achieve those goals and objectives. The business level strategy then is more concerned with their specific unit. So organizations can have multiple different functioning funnels, and the business one is more focused on that particular funnel that they're operating in. So this is what they're doing to be able to compete successfully in their particular market, how they are going to be successful versus what the other functions are doing. The operational level then is more concerned with how the different parts of the organization are delivering the strategy in terms of managing the resources, processes, and the people. So this means that they are more concerned with their specific responsibility within that funnel. They are making sure that they are getting the resources they need, the processes are in place, and the people are in place to help make sure that strategy for that particular unit within that funnel is going to be effective. With all that said, we will now go into what is strategic management. So just strategic management is going to be the set of decisions and actions that really will determine the long run performance of a corporation. It includes environmental scanning, it includes strategy formulation and strategy implementation, as well as measuring and controlling in order to achieve the objectives of the organization. The study of strategic management really emphasizes the monitoring and evaluating of all the external opportunities and threats in light of the corporation's strengths and weaknesses. So they're really making sure that they are really paying attention to what is going on outside and how it's impacting how the organization is operating inside. So the different features of strategic management will consist of having the support of the organization's executive officers. You can't have a process or strategy in place that isn't supported by who's running the company. If it's not supported by them, there's no way, one, it'll get implemented effectively, or two, those business units are going to be restructured in a way that will be supported by the organization's top officers. It's very user-friendly. Everyone can really, once they understand what strategic management is, implement it in how they're running their organizations. It's also important to know that your strategic management isn't left to just the planners. If you're just talking about it, it's not going to go anywhere. You can talk and talk and talk, but nothing's going to move forward without participation and engaging the people that are going to be involved in ultimately utilizing the strategies that are in place. It's very flexible. You can do it anywhere. You can really monitor stuff very easily. It has a lot of flexibility. It leads to more resource decisions. So if you're effectively managing your strategies, you are also effectively managing and utilizing your resources, which is key because you don't want to be wasting things that could be used or utilized by other units, and you don't want to be utilizing things that really won't have an impact on what you're doing and what your long-term goals are. It really helps when you're really effectively managing. It will help engage and motivate your staff. Having them buy into what's going on and what the company's doing is key in order to be effective and to move forward. If your staff isn't engaged in supporting and buying into what these strategies are, there's no way to effectively get them to work and operate in a way that the organization can move forward and can achieve those goals and objectives. It's also fresh and continuous. It's never going to be static and it's never going to be stale. You'll have to constantly be changing things and maneuvering things and implementing new things in order to constantly be moving your organization forward. If you just sit still, like I mentioned, just planning, you aren't going to move anywhere and go anywhere. Your organization will not improve its effectiveness and efficiency. So it's important to understand that. With the strategic model now, that will have 4 different steps, and that's going to be scanning, where are you now? Where's the organization now? And strategy formulation, which is where do we want to be? The implementation then is how do we get there? What are we going to do in order to get to that end result or that end desire? And then of course there's measurement and performance, which is how do we measure our progress? How do we know what we're doing is even effective? The scanning is, again, where are we right now? You're doing industry analyses, you're going through competitive analysis and gathering other intelligence and really kind of utilizing what we call the SWOT, your strengths, your weaknesses, the opportunities that exist, and the threats. So you're really trying to hone in on what those are in order to be able to implement strategies that help you, utilize operations in a way that attacks those threats and takes advantage of the opportunities that are existing. And then you'll also do a real good scan of the internal and external factors that are impacting the business. So what is going on inside the organization that is impacting how the organization is running, and what outside in the operating and market and environment is going on, like what out there is impacting how the organization is running. So that can be governmental things, that could be just community beliefs that can really impact how you're going to operate your business and be effective. So the strategy formulation then is going to be, where do we want to be? Where do we want this organization to be in 5, 10, 15, 50 years? This is where your vision, your mission, the values, goals, and objectives really come into play. You need to have values and values that are easy to stand behind and support, and values that mean something to everyone within the organization, not just upper management. There needs to be a clear vision, there needs to be a clear mission, and the objectives and goals also need to be they need to be attainable. They can challenge you and set kind of high bars, but you can't have something that you won't ever be able to actually get to and accomplish, because then the organization, again, isn't going to be effective. So when it comes to implementing those strategies, you really need to be action-oriented. This is the action stage of strategic management. You aren't just sitting back and watching. You are really doing what you can to make sure those strategies are successful. You're allocating the resources you need. You're getting the people that you need. You're meeting consistently in order to make sure you're getting where you need to be and the strategies actually working. This actually refers to the decisions that are being made to install the new strategy and reinforce existing strategies. And you have to have the CEO and upper management involvement. You can't have a strategy in place and expect it to be successful if you don't have the ownership standing behind those decisions and those beliefs of what they think needs to be done. The measuring step of this model really is about tracking your progress, making sure everything's going the way you need to go. You're hitting those benchmarks, whether it's operation-wise, financial-wise. It's really making sure you're getting a positive ROI. You're getting that return on investment that you are desiring and wanting. If your new strategy is actually causing the business hardship and money, there needs to be something, you need to be able to catch that in time or early in order to change up parts of that strategy, or to make sure that you are reinventing something that will work and helping that organization move in the direction that you want it to go. It's really about evaluating how the organization is doing after you've implemented this new strategy. And that could be doing financial markers and, again, operational markers. Are you outputting more than you need to be, or are you hitting those operation and manufacturing goals? So it's all about really paying attention to what is going on and if it's being positively impacted or negatively impacted. So ultimately, this brings us to, why is strategic management important? Why is it important to understand? Why is it important to use? Why do businesses need it? It's really important because it allows an organization to initiate activities, influence current activities, and then be proactive rather than reactive in a strategy, so that it has full control over its own destiny. So they can control where they're going to go, where they're going to be, what they're going to do, what they're going to get, how successful they're going to be, and then ultimately being able to be a successful organization. Strategic management really does benefit every single type of business out there, whether you're big, you're small, not for profit, you're a Fortune 500. It really doesn't have one particular type of industry or market that it works for, or an organization that it works for. It can be used by everybody. So whether you're a stay-at-home CPA or you are working for a huge firm like Kohl's, every single business has processes and design, plans for things, and then strategies that they're using to get to their end goals and objectives. So every organization can use strategic management as a way to continue their success and to build on their success. It's one of those things that once you understand it, you can do it. And it's very easy to put into movement once you have all your tools and you have realistic strategies and realistic goals and visions that can make those strategies successful. And again, all organizations have multiple strategies and processes in place. You won't just have one. So it's important to be able to manage all those effectively and know how your resources are being utilized and your time. So with all that said, I will go ahead and wrap it up. It's been a pleasure, and I hope you've learned a little bit about strategy and strategic management.